How's everybody today? I just want to say it's a pleasure being able to speak in front of y'all. Let me start off by asking, have you ever broken an arm or a leg? Most of you probably have, and no doubt the experience was probably painful, but what did you do in that instance? You were probably rushed into your emergency room at your local hospital. There you met with your doctor, who addressed your injuries, probably slapped on a cast on your broken limb, and then had you on your way to recovery in no time. Well, unlike you, breaking my leg, or legs for that matter, would be a bit more complicated and probably painless. Hello everyone, my name is Spencer Bergeon Boyd, and I am a bilateral amputee, and I have been for a good majority of my life. Once being a kid myself, I did what normal kids do at that age. I climbed trees, spent hours falling off my bike trying to learn how to ride, and got several scrapes and bruises doing the things that I love, my favorite activities. But when it came to breaking a bone, I never really had that issue. Instead, I had to worry about breaking something a bit more expensive than a broken arm. The replacement and maintenance of a device known as a prosthetic was my version of being treated for a broken limb. Like you, I went to a doctor, but mine was a certified orthopedics and prosthetic practitioner. Going to my practitioner was and is a process that entailed many things, but mainly centered around the creation of a plaster mold, proper alignment and measurement of said mold, and then the eventual adjustments necessary to make the initial or final definitive prosthesis, which would help later with the function of said limb. After meeting with Frank, more times than not, he would address my prosthetic as being unsalvageable. It wouldn't work. And to clarify, a prosthetic is any medical device denoted as an artificial body part, such as a limb or a heart or even a breast implant. Instead of slapping bandages around the limb, the only resort would be to manufacture a whole new limb. So when I broke my carbon fiber shell, that was it. You couldn't really repair it. You had to make a whole new one. And this process starts by fitting me or casting me for what is known as a check socket. That's that clear socket that Frank brings over all the time. In the world of prosthetics, a check socket is a temporary molded part of the prosthetic that fits around the residual limb. And the residual limb is the remaining part of the limb after amputation, or as you guys hear me call it, the stump. Frank evaluates and measures my limb, all while being sure to take in my physical health and my physical demands into account. And that basically means that he considers how I'll use that basically means he considers how active I'll be with my new limb, or my activity level. A high active patient needs more durable components to withstand the type of force they put on it, and a person with low activity levels that tend to need a more simple, more comfortable fit for their prosthesis. And you see, the basic structure of any prosthetic includes, and here's an example of a prosthetic: the socket, the socket or the sleeve that helps put the socket on, and other various components including pylons, rotators, and then this is a mechanical knee, but with my newer leg I have a computerized component, which is like an electronic joint, and then you have the basic foot, which is the last part of the leg. And this is an AK side prosthetic, which means above knee, so this part is the knee for the leg. And then the other example is my BK side, the below knee. Since I have a physical knee, this one's shorter and tends to be a bit more simplistic than the other one. So to first start the casting process, a thin white sleeve must be placed over my residual limb with lines drawn at specific points. And these points are supposed to measure like the mid-patella, which I think is like somewhere like that here, the fibula head, tibula crest, the tibula itself, and then each is measured like 2 inches apart from each other, both height and width. And my practitioner, Frank, is more old school. He's more hands-on with his patients. So when using a plaster mold, he has to first, this allows him to capture the unique characteristics of my residual limb, like the definite shape. As you can see where the knee is, where the bone is, or sometimes some bones on the sides. And this is done by wrapping wet bandages carefully around the limb, the plaster molds is what they call them. Then defining points of contact or areas with protruding bones and ensuring safe weight distribution. Weight distribution is key because unlike my AK side, my BK side is not a distal weight and bearing limb, which means I cannot bear weight on the bottom of that limb. If I do, the bone has potential to rip through the skin and cause me severe pain. So with this, the weight is instead captured below the knee, which is that little curve right there, on the sides, and then like around the knee. I'm not sure what they call that part. But yeah, that's weight distribution is important. Once dried, this technique creates a rigid mold that captures the contours of the limb exactly. That being said, like the bones and the knee joints or whatever. And then the next step of the process is testing the check socket. So that's when I try on that clear plaster mold, and then he further notes anatomical figures or whatever. Then it solidifies to form a more accurate positive mold of the limb. He then takes the impression and places it in a specific position and begins hand molding the socket. And he does this to clearly define anatomic landmarks, and that's any part other than like the bones and the skin or the tendons or the nerves and stuff like that. And then this negative impression will more closely resemble the final piece or the final product that he delivers to the patient. Fitting of the test socket ensures that the socket fits the patient optimally before it is attached to the rest of the components of an artificial limb. So that's like the foot, pylon, and the fake knee. And keep in mind, all this is done in a couple of weeks. It's not like one visit, then you're good to go, and then you heal. This is a process that takes 2 or 3 weeks at max just to get the test socket. And once more, after I apply the socks to better apply the socket, as he's positioned me on the stool, as I'm standing, Frank usually uses a combination of tape and markers to note further searching areas of the limb. And he's done this for 30 years in the field, so Frank's been working with me for about 15, I think. So with older patients, or people more experienced with using a prosthetic, usually can reciprocate their thoughts or their feelings about how comfortable their prosthetic fits. But newer amputees might not have that articulate ability to be able to tell the person how they feel or what's uncomfortable, and might need further training on how to use that. And the final step is deliverance of the final prosthetic. Each patient Frank sees has a unique gait pattern that he has to take into account, and activity level, so how active they'll be on the limb. And therefore he must provide comfort and efficient function for the prosthetic. And once more, he does this through adjusting relative position of the components while the patient uses the limb, so usually when they're standing or when they're balancing on one foot or when they walk across the room back and forth, they'll use that to see their gait pattern. And gait pattern is just the way you walk, the way you throw out your knee and your hip. And then after that, there's only a few more follow-ups just to make sure all the components are working, that the leg fits the patient comfortably. And some adjustments may need to be made. I mean, nothing's perfect, so you might have to put like inside padding on the socket if it's too big or if it rotates too much. Or with this one, you could see that it was shaved down or melted because this was actually jabbing at the back of my knee where the tendons bend, so it was causing it pain to use. So this is a modification that he made after he delivered the final piece. And then he has to make important alignment changes. Your hips have to be even so as not to cause back problems, and you can walk properly. And the world of prosthetics involves many techniques and procedures to meet the patient's needs. There's a lot of part that the practitioner has to do to ensure that those needs are met. And most of this ranges from activity level, weight, and even age. Sometimes the older the patient, they want more simple parts. They don't want anything fancy, just something simple. And they come in different shapes, sizes, colors, and designs. I mean, this is a regular walking leg, and this is a running leg, what they use for sports. That's why it's curved. And I mean, the world of prosthetics goes way deeper than I could cover here today, but it was a pleasure to be able to talk to you or present this information in front of y'all. And before I left, I was trying to think of an amputee joke, but I was just stumped, so I'm just going to have to leave it at that. Thank you.